All right, so I'm going to share the examples of the 4 stages, levels of love, and where's essentially level 4 is unconditional love, God's love. So I'm going to use The Phantom of the Opera as a reference. The version that I recently saw was with Gerard Butler, Patrick Wilson, and Emmy Rossum. So, Emmy Rossum being Christine. So, Christine is a singer in the film who experiences, for example, a love triangle. A love for Patrick Wilson, who is Raoul, who she essentially knew as a child, since a child. And then there is the Phantom, aka the Angel of Music, aka her teacher. So I'll give you some context soon. But essentially, Christine, aka Emmy, demonstrates unconditional love and tries developing unconditional love towards the Phantom. So as she gains exposure towards both these characters, she comes to a point where she's constantly questioning herself and which side to take, and as well as, for example, where it's pure leaps of faith. And this is an act that we are to do, say, for example, when we are in a Holy Spirit and or with God and or fully immersed in God's love, which is unconditional love. So sometimes we can go into level 3, which is empathetic love. It's a love where we are questioning another individual to be more understanding and or to hopefully be more loving towards that person. Because when we fall into level 3 of empathetic love, we can potentially succumb to level 2, which is conditional love. And this is where the Phantom, aka the Angel of Music, aka Gerard Butler in the film, demonstrates. So conditional love is, for example, I love you when you do this, I dislike when you do this, or you see their hateful side, because it is what we're conditioned towards and or into. So you get to see the dark side of the Angel of Music because of his upbringing, because of how he grew up, and because of his insecurity, vulnerability, weakness, which is the other side of his face. So in The Phantom of the Opera, by the way, guys, if you guys have not seen this film, spoiler alerts, and I highly recommend you pause this video and go into YouTube now. It's available for free. The Phantom of the Opera, developed in 2004. Highly recommend. So going back, so the Phantom was in the circus as a child, and wore a mask, and he was basically referred to as the devil's child. And this older fella removed his mask, and there was a crowd of individuals, and they all laughed, and when they left, the child killed the man and then escaped with another character, which I'm not going to share right now, but because we're so the Phantom is at level 2, conditional love, because he can easily turn to level 1, which is love or hate, because he's been conditioned to learn and know of hate because of, say, the circus, and as well as being unacceptable to the world because of being laughed at for his face since a child. He's been conditioned, programmed to learn and know this. So that's an example of how a person at level 2 can drop into level 1. Now he's at conditional love because of the thanks of Christine, who we come to learn that he's loved since he taught her, because he is her teacher. This is something you begin to learn when she takes the role of being the main actress throughout the film, replaced by this terrible woman who is played by Minnie Driver. And she's an example of, like, say, a societal woman, a woman that's not of God, a woman who cares about status and power and is just not humble. So this is an example of a lot of women that fall into this trap when they do not have God in their heart, and they just try to become their own god or queen without consideration or care. Anyways, let me not dissect this character right now. I've got company right now. I've got Oreo. Mind you, I'm allergic to cats, but anyways. So now Christine goes through this constant shift between the Phantom and Raoul, aka Patrick Wilson, because she loves them both, but she questions the Phantom through his actions, because he kills. There's some degrees where he kills other individuals, and she also questions this individual throughout the process of the film. We get to a point where at the end of the film, where they're doing this big play, she takes the mask off and he asks why. I understand that she did it in order to see his face fully and to fully understand this individual. And then you notice how the anger, the jealousy, the fight, the fire through the Phantom, the Angel of Music, towards the world and towards Raoul, where they have this fight, for example, before in the cemetery, as well as how the Phantom is at a point where he's saying, choose me or and he lives, or choose him and he dies. And Raoul, while He's right here. Oreo's right here. Just so you, so my neighbor's cat, and I'm allergic to cats. Raul, even though he is basically at a point where he's to die, basically is willing to sacrifice his love, let her go, so that she can live with the Phantom and not to sacrifice himself for saying the truth. And ultimately, Christine kisses the Phantom, and through that power of unconditional love, through her kiss to him, the Phantom basically realized, gained consciousness through her love, that what he was doing was wrong, and essentially tells her to flee with him, to flee with Raul. So he basically the Phantom basically lets Christine go because of his gained awareness through her love, unconditional love, through the kiss. And she basically goes with Raul. And that's because she also questioned throughout the film, like, with the lack of knowing and unknowing of, will this man really be able to, will the Phantom, the angel of music, really be able to love me fully, and may I have a complete life when, however, although all he knows is this life, the life inside this opera house, because he doesn't go and live out into the world because of knowing, because of his deformity and conditioned knowledge that the world won't accept him because of how he looks. In essence, with that being said, the Phantom still loves her towards the end of the film, because you see on her grave, as she passed away, you see the flower, you see a rose, a black ribbon tied, and the ring that he offered her for her hand in marriage, that she returned to him after she chose Raul, before she left the cave permanently. She gave him back the ring, and you see that ring with the rose and ribbon on her grave. So it's like he always had that remaining love towards her till the very end, till her death, on her grave. And that's an example of unconditional love. And again, going back to Christine, she essentially was about to love the angel of music no matter what. However, she knew deep down that he had much to learn because of his ability and cruelty to kill and to be that evil side. So she knew, but we don't know that essentially she's at level 4, unconditional love, and she was learning even to love the Phantom, the angel of music, of all of him fully, completely, but she didn't know fully about him. That's where she was having this level 3 of love with the Phantom in order to better understand him fully. Because again, the Phantom is a man of mystery, this angel of music. He's a figure that hides and plays, hence the Phantom, a ghost, like a ghost in human form, and chooses Raul because he was essentially demonstrating that, like, you know, this man knows the world. This man has known her since child, loved her since they were children, and, you know, tried fighting for her against the Phantom towards death. And then even in the cemetery, technically, Raul wins against the Phantom. You take notice in that, where Raul flees with Christine on the horse, on his horse, the horse that he came on, back to the opera house. So Christine essentially, for example, chose Raul because the Phantom still had much to learn. And that's because he was at level 2. But through the kiss, that gained awareness, started learning, say, level 4, to get to level 4. Whereas you can see towards the end of the film that moment with the rose, ring, ribbon was his example of, like, love. I love you no matter what, till the very end. And that's an example of the vows, you know, till death do us apart, for sickness and in health, for richer or poor. This is an example of the promise to make when you are with your partner. And this is an example of the broken promises that are caused, developed, created, broken by people that divorce, say both men and women. I'm not trying to pick a side because it's both men and women that are responsible for this promise. And, you know, sometimes it's the woman, sometimes it's the man. And this is something that needs to be worked on within all of us, that in order to be in God's highest power form of love. Wow, I'm at 18 minutes. Anyways, so I'm going to conclude to that as an example of the stages of love, and to practice tapping into unconditional love where it becomes nonviolent. The only time it ought to become violent is for self-protection or preservation, not out of, for example, me or him, where that is essentially conditional love, and that can turn to level 1, love or hate. So that's it for now. God bless you, and have a great day.